Okay, this next video lesson is going to be on composition, okay? First we have to start with something called evaluating, okay? What evaluating means is if you give a function, it says f of this. This means put in for all x using parentheses, okay? So what that means is I go 10, I remove the x, and I put an 8 there. And then all I got to do is type that in. That's 75. Okay, let's go through a few more examples. All right, what does this mean? Every spot there's an x, I'm removing it. And in this case, I put a -3. Very important you put your parentheses. If you don't, you get the problem. Okay, this one, square root 4 parentheses 20 plus 1. So what you got to be careful of when you type this in, you got to put parentheses of what you're keeping on the inside. So 4 and 20 plus 1, and then close it. It's not. Okay, this one, if I do this one, I have 3 parentheses squared, -8, -5 parentheses -8. So make sure that 3 goes on the outside. Let the calculator do the work. 232. Okay? So that's evaluating. You guys try these. Okay? Now, this next part is something called composition. And we're going to relate it back to what we just did. When this was f of a number, what did we do? We took that function, and every spot where there was an x, I put a parenthesis there, okay? So that's not going to change. I'm going to start here. So 5 parentheses plus 3. Now, this is the fill-in function. I'm going to fill this in. Now, at this point, this last part, if it's a variable, you need to do the operations, okay? So in this case, I would distribute, that's going to be 10x minus 20 plus 3. That's 10x minus 17. We'll get into it when it's a number. When it's a number, you just literally replace the x one more time and put a parenthesis there, okay? So I'm going to start, this is the g function. I'm starting with g. I'm removing the x. I'm putting the f in. And since that's an x, okay, all right, I distribute that, that's 10x plus 6 minus 4. I combine that, that's 10x plus 2. Okay? Now, here's another way you'll see composition. Notice, this is an open circle. Okay, so that stands for the composition. So I start here with G. So this is still a start here. I'm still filling in the H. Okay? And then I have X, so that means I have to do the operation, which is 2x squared plus 10. Minus 4, that's going to be 2x squared plus 6, because those two combine. Okay, this one, I'm going to start with the h function. I'm going to fill in the j function. Now, this means do the operation. So squared, what happens there? That becomes this. Add 5, those two combine to x plus 3. H of f of x. Okay, so h, I'm going to fill in f. Okay, now, when you have squared, what that means is I got to make a square. I got to make a box. So this is 25x squared. This is 15x. This is 15x. This is 9. Now, when I go to combine my like terms, I got this and this. That's 30x. Now, I also have 9 and 5, so that's going to be 14, so I can combine that like that. Okay? All right. Why don't you guys try these? Okay, so let's talk about when there's a number. Not much different, just easier on the operation. Start here. 12 parentheses minus 5. Fill in here. 4x plus 6. What this means is replace the x's with a parenthesis in that number. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put that in like that. That keeps it really easy, okay? All right, so you just got to type all your parentheses. That's the only thing you got to watch. And I'm going to let the calculator do the work, and I get 163. So this, I'm going to get a number answer for. Okay? All right, so my final answer there is 163. So what I want to do, I want to start with the g function. I want to fill in the f function. Now, since I have this number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out that x, and I'm going to put that number of -4. And I just got to type that in. That's -206. I'm going to let the calculator do the work. G of h of -5. Okay? I'm going to move these up real quick. I think I'm going to run out of room. Hold on. See if I can move this up. Nah, I can't. All right. So G. Okay. H. Now -5 means I got to take that parenthesis out. Okay, I'm going to put a -5. Just got to type all the stuff. That's really it. Let me move this over. Okay, so 4 parentheses again, -5 squared, plus 6, close it, plus 6, 130. Okay, h of f. Okay, now they want an 11. So what I would do is 12 parentheses 11 minus 5 squared plus 6. Okay, so parentheses 12 parentheses 11 minus 5 parentheses squared plus 6. 16,135. F of 3. Okay, so that means I would start with f. I'm going to then put f in here. And since there is a number, I'm now just going to take out the x and put a 3. Okay, and I'm going to let the calculator do the work. Just got to make sure I got all the parentheses there. $367. Sorry, I ran out of room. I did not board space that great. Okay, I want you guys to try those. Okay, all right. Now, I'm going to put it all together. All right, when do we use the number? When do you use the letter? Okay, so still start with F. Filling in the G. Now, since that's an X, I then just distribute. Combine my like terms. I can combine those. That's 4x squared plus 13. Okay, G function. F function. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to take out the x and put a -4 in there. And now I'm going to let the calculator do that work. Okay, parentheses 4, parentheses -4, minus 3 squared plus 4. 365. Okay, all right. G of h, so start with the G function. Put in h, the square. Now, since that's an x, I got to do the operation. That's squared. It's going to be minus 9 plus 4. I just combine those. It's x minus 5. Okay? This one, h, g. Since it's a number, let's remove the x one more time. Okay, and I'm going to put a 3 in there. Okay, now we got to be careful here as we type this in, because you may want to just type the under part in first. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's do parentheses, 3 squared plus 4, close the parentheses, minus 9. That gives me 4. And then I would just take the square root of 4, which gives me 2. Okay, that's probably an easier way to do that. Okay, pause your video, you try these. Okay, the last thing in this lesson is using the graphs instead. Now this is where we're going to go backwards. So let's go ahead and say graphs work backwards. Meaning what I want to do in the graphs is I want to start with this graph. I'm actually going to work backwards here. So g of 1 means, okay, go to 1. So this is referencing x. So go to 1 on the g function and find the y. That's right here, all right? That's right here, and that value here is 3, okay? So that result here is going to be f of 3. Now, what I want to do is go to the f function. Here's 3. This is my new x. That goes up. That's here. That's going to be 6. So that's my final answer. So I know that looks weird, but what you're just trying to do is you're trying to find the y for each part. So what I would say is go ahead and find the y for each part. That's sort of what you're doing, okay? So when it says g of 2, I'm actually going to start in here. So go to 2, okay? What's the y value? Y value would be 0. So now I'm doing f of 0. So I go over here to the 0 function. 0, find where it crosses. That's going to be negative 3. So what you want to look at is it's basically x. All right? Find where it meets the graph. And then use that for the other graph. Okay? And basically, that's sort of what's sort of going on here. All right, now, on this one, what I want to do is I want to start on here. So f of 5. So 5 is here. Where does it meet the graph? It meets the graph of 2. So now I'm going to find g of 2. All right? G of 2, where does that meet the graph? Right here. So that's going to be 0 for a final answer. Okay? F of 4, I'm going to start here. Okay? So at 4, where does it meet the graph? It meets the graph at 5. So what I'm going to do is find g of 5. Okay, so that's here. 5 beats the graph at 3. So basically what you're doing, you're starting here. This is your x value. Where does it meet the graph? Wherever it meets the graph, you use for the next one, next x value, and so on. Let's do one more. Okay? So separate graphs. I'm going to start here at g of 3. Okay, so the g graph, 3, where does it meet? It meets at 4. So now I'm going to find f of 4. All right, 4, where does it meet the graph? At 0. Okay, this I'm going to start here, g of 1. Okay, g of 1, where does it meet the graph? 3. So I'm going to find f of 3. 3, where does it meet the graph? It meets the graph at 2. Okay, now I'm going to start here on this one. I'm going to start on the f function at 0. Where does it meet the graph? It meets it at 4. So I'm going to do g of 4. 4, where does it meet the graph? It goes to 5. Okay, I'm starting here. F of 1. Where does 1 meet the graph? It meets it at 3. So g of 3. 3, where does it meet the graph? It meets the graph at 4. So in essence, what you're trying to do is you're working backwards with the graphs. It's the only way to sort of logistically do it so it makes sense. Okay? All right? So graphs, you work backwards. Start here. What that is the x value. Find where it meets. Okay? That becomes your next x value to find where it meets. Okay? And that's basically how you do it. Okay? There'll be a worksheet for you to practice those last questions. And that is going to be the composition lesson.